In executing the search warrant, did you find a gun in the house? Yes, I did. Was it a .357 Colt? Yes. I have nothing further. Anything illegal about the gun? I don't know. I didn't search. Checked out all right? I don't know. Wouldn't somebody have told you if there was something illegal about that gun? Not necessarily. As far as you know, there was nothing illegal about him having a firearm in his residence. That's not true. That's not true. As far as I know, as far as you know, there was nothing illegal about him having a firearm, that firearm in his residence. I didn't know. Nothing further. No questions. All right, you may step down. May this officer be excused? Yes. All right, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. People called Detective Sears. All right. Please raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God? I do. Please state your name, spelling your last. Charles W. Sears. S-E-A-R-S. Detective Sears, what is your occupation? Police officer, City of Los Angeles, assigned to Narcotics Division. How long have you been a police officer? 24 years. Did you participate in the execution of a search warrant on the 30th, on September 30th, on apartment number 11 at 11762 Rancho in the city of Orange, County of Orange? I did. Excuse me, this is off the record, back on the record. In executing the search warrant, is it communicated to you, in fact, there was a search warrant for the premises? Yes. Was that communicated over the radio by Detective Harden? By Detective Harden, yes. After you became aware of that, did you go to the residence? I did. And did you knock and announce your presence? I did. What did you say? How did you do it? I knocked on the door and announced I was a police officer for the City of Los Angeles. I had a search warrant to search the location, and I did that 3 different times with no response. Eventually, what did you do? I entered the location with a key. Searched, that was a key obtained from one of the suspects back at the mart? Yes. Or at least one of the people that had been arrested that had initially been detained at the mart? That's correct. And in executing the search warrant, did you find some passports in the residence? I did. Was it 8 Colombian passports, meaning passports from the country Colombia? That's correct. Was one of them in the name of Guzman? Yes, it was. And one of the defendants in this case? That's correct. May I approach the court? Yes. Does she have the evidence? Are you looking for the return? No. Looking for the actual documents I am going to seek to introduce. Possibility, yes. Now, just so I understand, sir, you knew what the property was worth, about what it was worth. At least you've told us here, not only in your deposition, but you told us today that you thought it was worth roughly $160,000. Is that correct? Roughly, yeah. And you were selling your interest for $40,000 plus whatever Arlen paid on the property after, what, March of '85, right? I was paying $38,000 plus whatever he, I'm sorry, $38,000 plus whatever he had paid? Okay. Actually would be half of what he paid, right? Because you still owned the property half and half? Yeah, but he was buying me out, so he took his half and my half and put all his labor and material, most of the money, his own, at that point when I decided to sell out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you were giving up a considerable amount of equity in the property. We only had it for a couple years. I didn't think I had a whole lot of equity in a short period of time. You were willing to give up whatever equity you had in the property to, I figured it had $5,000 in equity. From the time I bought it and sold it, I had probably $5,000 in equity accumulated from the 2 years I owned it. I don't want to muddle in this, sir, but again, I think you told us that you roughly estimated your equity to be in the neighborhood of 55, 60, 70,000, or as high as 80. That's counting all the money I put in it. I thought you meant minus the money. But you were actually being bought out for $38,000 plus the money that Arlen paid, right, which is about another $38,000 that he assumed $38,000 that he assumed. By the time you take half of the second loan, which is $20,000 that I owned, he assumed. You confused me. He assumed my $20,000 that I owed on the second mortgage, so that's $20,000 that he assumed. He assumed $10,000, which would be your share. No, it's 40, so my share would be 20. Okay. Execute any agreement related to that assumption of that debt that Arlen was going to assume for you. I didn't understand your question. Did you execute any agreement related to that assumption of debt that Arlen was assuming? It was just a verbal agreement between me and him. Okay. So if Arlen decided, hey, I ain't paying